Yo, so I think in this first section, I'm just going to kind of break down how I start a track. There's a few ways I would start a track, and I'll go through those. And I guess just where I get inspiration from, a lot of the time I do get kind of like a block at the beginning, so I kind of like to sort of set a context to write in. Um, so yeah, I guess the first way I start music, when I open up Ableton and I just see a blank canvas, I'll either get some drums in, or I'll get a drone in, or something like that. Um, I suppose when I was kind of figuring out this kind of ravey sound and what I wanted to do, I was kind of just drawing inspiration from various places. A lot of the times in my tunes, you'll hear these kind of like detuned saw waves, um, and they have like kind of like a chorusy feel to them. They feel a little bit like, I don't know, like 90s or something, old school. And I listened to a lot of like J. Paul and stuff like that, and I really liked that sort of really detuned vibe. And I wanted to try and figure out how I can make that a little bit more ravey. So of course I got the kind of force to the floor drums, house drums. So yeah, I kind of knew that. I kind of knew like, I liked a few of these different artists, and I always wanted to keep like DUSKUS quite melodic and whatever. I just wanted to give it kind of like an old school lo-fi-ish feel to it, I guess. Still have it deep and hard hitting. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of the time as well, when I don't directly think this is exactly the sound I want to make. I kind of just experiment a lot of the time. Maybe copying various artists that I like, or just taking a few sounds from artists that I like. A lot of the time I'll spend just days just doing sound design, which I'll get onto later in the next section. But yeah, let's just go straight into how I start a track. So basically, there's a few ways. The first way I normally do is just get a drone, something in there at least. A lot of the time you can overthink immediately, like, oh, what can I go in first? Like just starting sometimes is a bit of a overwhelming task. So I find like getting just a drone or something simple like that is probably like the best way to go. Or like a drum beat as well, just some drums in there. If you get some drums in there, that's another sort of anchor to write around. But let's start with the drone. So a lot of the time I'll just go really simple, and I'll just get I'll get silent, or there's a lot of cool patches in the Arturia stuff as well, which I'll talk about a little bit later in the sound design section. But some sort of string or something kind of ambient, something that I can just, that doesn't stick out too much, low pass it, whatever, and then we can write some chords onto that after. But I suppose let's just get this little drone in. So yeah, I've got this like little saw wave here. I'll grab another one. Just two oscillators on now. We just detune the second one, the same way you'd make a respace, and then just low pass it there. And you'll get this sound. Doesn't sound particularly amazing. I'm not really bothered about the sound design. That's another thing as well, is like when I'm starting a track, I don't think too deeply about sound design and all of those things. And I suppose it depends what you want to make, right? If you're making dubstep and stuff like that, maybe like the initial part of that sound, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to like go really hard on the sound design, because that's what it's about. Whereas like for me, I want to be a little bit more about the writing, so, and just like the composition of the song. So a lot of the time I'll just stick to really simple sounds, and if the idea sounds good of those simple sounds, then I know it's a cool idea. So yeah, we'll get the little drone in, and any note's fine, just stick one in. So maybe we can turn on this so we can hear what we're doing. Cool, okay. And then next up we will grab maybe another note, just that'll do. That's super simple. That's how I start my ideas. Two notes, and then I can write some chords under that. So a lot of the time the note that would be the drone would be the root note of the key you're in. So I just start with that, and then we can write underneath it. And a lot of the time when you have that sustain note, it always kind of adds more emotion in there by default. So yeah, maybe like for now, what we'll do is we'll get a little kick drum in there as well as another kind of anchor point to write around. I also find a lot of the time, like if you do have a drum beat from the beginning, you're going to end up, writing a drop first, rather than writing some verse that you can't make a drop with. So you got to think about that as well. Like, what's the strongest point of the song, I suppose. If you want to make the drop really cool, maybe start with the drums, and then you can write those chords and those like chord rhythms around those drums, and you instantly have that sort of drop feel rather than sort of starting a verse. And then never getting to figure out how the drop is, but you've got this really cool verse, which I used to do all the time. So I'm just gonna find a kick. I also have like a lot of different folders of different. I'm really bad at organising my stuff, but I have different things. So I have like Romantic Rave, which is kind of just all the ravey stuff I love, and I collect samples here and there, and I'm like, oh, that one's cool, and I just throw them in there every now and then. A lot of the time when I'm making music as well, I'll just throw stuff in. And then I have like a bunch of other different ones, stuff from my Tascam and stuff like that. But yeah, I just throw stuff in it. I don't know, it's really badly organised. But yeah, I have all these kind of like hip hop kicks, which I thought was really cool, because a lot of like the sort of garagey stuff I did listen to had these really sort of kicks in the mid-range that popped a lot, and I wanted to do something a little bit more deeper, and I feel like the deeper kicks matched the sort of deepness of the saw waves I was doing anyway. So yeah, that one's got quite a nice transient on it, we'll go with that. Once that gets in there, I do apologise for the slow computer speed as well. I'm on my old Mac, as my other one is being serviced by Apple right now because I spilt water on it. But yeah, so we got that kick, and then we'll get, let's get a clap. A lot of the time I'm not really fussy, I'll just grab a clap. This is the one I've been using a lot, and it's just a clap I think I made ages ago. Doesn't even sound that good, but like I said at the beginning, just get something down. Even if you can always be really perfectionist, just get something down, even if it's rubbish, just put it down. So we'll just do that, low pass that clap a little bit, and then we'll just draw in the fall to the floor. I always use narrow, I don't know, it's just what I've always used. And there we go, we have a little loop, so we can just loop that. I think the song's done. Right, so we will just loop that. Let's go 132. A bit faster, a bit harder. Hats will give rhythm, and you want those. Let's get sounds awesome. Right, let's get those in there. We can try a different hat actually. That'll do. Another thing I kind of do initially, like right off the bat, is just put a swing on it. So I've been using this one all the time, Swing Logic 16th 63, which sounds good to me. And then let's also just going to duplicate this really quick, and then I'm going to mute it and just call it sidechain. I'm pretty old school with my sidechain. I just use the Live 8 compressor, and I don't use LFO tool or any of that stuff. I find it just a bit tedious and long, and maybe after, if I want a really specific sidechain, then I might go and replace those, but most of the time I just kind of stick with the Live 8 compressor, and then making the trigger just this tiny little blip, so that way the release time of the compressor isn't reliant upon like the length of the sample. That'll do. Cool. And then in my audio effect racks folder, it's in here, I've got Live 8 compressor. So we'll just slap that on the drone. So yeah, I guess like this is kind of like the sort of template you could like make. You could make a template like this if you wanted, just a drone and then some drums, and then you get all the ideas are going to kind of sound around in that world because you have that kind of anchor there from the get-go. A lot of the time I don't use a default template. I kind of like doing different things a lot of the time, but for this specific style of like housey rave stuff, this is what I'll do. Cool. Alright, on the drums I'm going to whack on a little radiator because it sounds nice. It just kind of makes the drums interact with each other a little bit, and yeah. So like normally, like, you know, I'd probably change that hat later, but let's not worry about it right now. Let's not get like too into details. Maybe it's a whack hat, but let's just get some chords in there. So yeah, we've got the drone, got the setup down. Let's get some chords. And I guess like I'll talk a little bit more about the sound design in the next part. But yeah, I think a lot of my sound design is relatively simple. But yeah, I'm just gonna put in some chords and we'll go from there. Cool. So I'm just gonna like stick on a basic sine wave, and then I'm gonna detune it, like I said, and then we're gonna just bend it, and then maybe we can put an envelope on that bend, give it a little bit of shape, and yeah, something like that. Something like that's kind of cool. Doesn't sound that great yet. I find simple sounds, good processing always works the best. Unless a lot of the time when you have like this crazy sound from source, and then you process it's just too much. Just take a simple saw wave and then we can process it after a little bit later. So yeah, I'm also going to stick on that Live 8 compressor onto this ridiculously simple sound. So I'm just going to draw in maybe some bass notes or some chords. A lot of the time I use thirds. It's a really simple way to write music, but you know, people seem to, because it's so simple, everyone would like it, and it's good for like rave stuff. You don't want it to be too melodic, I suppose, if it's like super like ravey. Also, another thing I kind of noticed as well is when I don't use the drone and I just start writing chords, I tend to write a slightly darker progression or something a little bit more heavy. But when I put the drone in, I tend to write a little bit more melodically and more emotional. I'm not sure why that is. I think it's just because you kind of set that kind of ambient thing straight away. So yeah, just thirds, but an octave up. So take the third, put an octave up. And then this one is just a fifth, so just in the normal place. I always find it doesn't add too much melodically, but it just adds body to the synth. Cool, let's extend this clip out, and we'll just keep messing around. So like I said before, just get something down, even if it's not your favorite progression in the world. Like I said, all these little details you can sit there for ages on, even stuff like the writing. Get something down, even if it's like it doesn't resonate with what you want to do specifically, and then just get a bunch of these sounds in the project. Create this kind of world that doesn't have any specific target yet. All these all these random little things, right? Some chords, drones, maybe some vocal chops, whatever. And then once you've got all these like random parts, then you can write different chord progressions underneath those. If you didn't like the one you had, you can change the drums, and you just have this kind of playground of just sounds you can mess around with. You know, I end up writing like kind of a cool idea a lot of the time. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, and then I'll just mute the chord progression and leave the vocal chops and the drone and the drums in there, and I'm like, oh, I'll try a different chord progression, and then a lot of the time I like that more. Or for example, I'll change the chops and I like the chord progression, or I'll change the drums to a completely different thing. You know, you just set up all these kind of random things so you don't have to have, otherwise it's like too much to think about. If you have like, if you're trying to specifically make something cool, everything you make just really cool, that's not going to happen. Just throw rubbish in there, create this kind of world, and then mess around, mix and match it about, try different things with it, and then you'll find you'll have better results. And just don't think too much about it, and kind of loosely just have fun with it, really. So that's, you know, that's kind of cool progression. I don't know, maybe I'll change it later, we'll see. You know, but it'll do for now. I'm not too stressed. It's just have some fun, you know what I mean? Let's make sure these chords also have the swing on. Right, maybe we can also add in a couple other hats as well. Let's check we're still recording and everything is going smooth. Yeah, we're good. This hat would do for now. A lot of the samples I just find either on Reddit, Splice, wherever. I just dig around. My mates give me samples as well. Add in some of these side ones. Without the swing, it kind of sounds, really gives it that light. We can even try a slightly even swingier. Go a bit faster. Do is bring these up. I'll turn it all down later. Bring these hats down a bit. Hats down a bit more. Another hat in there. Maybe a little more of an open one. Something like that might be cool. Let's get that in there, and then we can just we can fade it out a bit. I do use the drum rack. I am a bit weird with it. I just find it better. Oh, that's not what we want. We want it on this one. Cool. I want to bring the volume of this one down. Cool, and then let's duplicate that serum and let's make that a little bass. So I'm just going to duplicate that, take off the thirds and the fifths, and we're just going to go. Maybe also sometimes you just add a few drone notes somewhere. Let's add that there. Cool little starting point, do you know what I mean? And then you can instantly just already get like a really basic structure down. So you can just take the drone, you can take this stuff, the drums, and take the kick and the clap out. You can just take maybe just the bass. Super simple, like the simplest way to make tunes, but I just find keep it simple and then throw loads of random shit in there, mix and match it, see what happens. Like this could end up being a garage beat later on, or it could be, I could end up turning it into like drum and bass, whatever. Like I guess just don't worry too much about the outcome and just have fun. Cool. I guess from here I would probably get a vocal chop or something like that. So I'd find some vocals, and a lot of the time I just kind of dig through Reddit, find like old a cappella packs. There's also a peer-to-peer sharing platform called SoulSeek, which I find like loads of like old school vocals that you have to clear if you use. You can't just really use them, but to get inspiration and get ideas, there's loads of stuff in there. You know, like old school rave stuff, like 90s stuff. Yeah, all of it's pretty useful. So if I just type in Aka, I just have tons of like songs that have just been like, you know, have the acapella taken out of. So you know, we can just go through these and just see what sounds cool. I'll put this one in, whatever. I don't even really listen to them. I just drag them in. Oh, that might sound cool. I guess I'm pretty like careless. So get that in, let's get it in key first. That's pretty cool. Sweet, so maybe we can just take like just take that. actually gonna like, I'll just chop it there. Let's see. Cool. Let's maybe get some like delay in there. Ping pong. That'd be cool. Cool. And maybe we can. Maybe we can have that one in there, just so it's different the second time. What if I even something cooler than that? That's kind of cool. Maybe we can have that twice. Sweet. Alright. Basic idea down there. I'm gonna also low pass these vocals because it might sound cool a little bit lo-fi. And then I love using phase up. That's really cool. And then we can also put auto tune on it. That might be cool. If the phaser loads, cool. Let's figure out what key we're in. So a key of E major. So we'll just grab. Yeah, to find the key, by the way, just listen to where the root note is, figure out what root note sounds like, and then I'll just slap on auto tune. So we've got E major. This is Melda, by the way, to do like a free bundle. I can't afford the what is it, Antari's auto tune. Maybe that's like too much. Sometimes you'd like some of these R&B vocals, like they sound nice with no tune too, so. So let's like even structure this even more. I find also a lot of the time people tend to make like just loops and they get stuck with that. So even if you have like the smallest loop, just try to structure it. Like if you can't get anywhere else with the song or whatever you're doing, just structure it at least. Like try and, even if it's not a cool structure, just do something, get it out so it's at least 2 minutes. Even if it's just like drums and it's nothing, just do that. And then when you listen on your phone later, the next day, or when you're out, maybe you're at the pub, just listen to it on your phone. You might find that like you can hear what the structure needs to be, what can go in certain places, and then, you know, whack it on SoundCloud so you can listen in private. So what we'll do is we'll pull that out more, and then we will move this over even more, put this there, and then we will grab this twice, extend these ones out, and then we'll take the drums, and then maybe we can just get rid of these claps for now. I can just write here, intro, verse. And if I do sometimes like get stuck with structures as well, a lot of the time I've downloaded just loads of songs that I like, and I put them in my samples. and I'll just drag them in and write up the top how they structure it like this. Just put an intro verse and just writing down, oh, and then it's that bit, and then I'll be like, oh, that's interesting. I feel like if you draw it out, you put in a song you like, and you just label the sort of structure of it, then you kind of learn how songs work more, and then eventually you'll just be able to structure things better yourself. So that's just a general structure tip. I definitely do that a lot. We also should probably get some reverb on that, because then we can have big space. That's another thing to think about as well, is like, if you have less elements, maybe there's more room for reverb. If there's loads of instruments and loads of stuff going on, maybe there's less room for reverb. I find a lot of these like rave tracks, usually just big respaces, right, with massive reverb vocals to fill the space, and sometimes that's just enough. Like, that's all you need. You don't need all this other fancy stuff going on in the sides. Or sometimes you might want just like this tiny little vocal with loads of like sparkly things and all this stuff going on. So really up to you. It's another thing to sort of think about. Maybe we have breakdown here, and yeah, that's kind of how I start an idea. It's super simple. I might end up deleting all of this, or I might take these chords, remove them, try different chords. I've got some chops. Maybe I'll take the drums, try something different, try some different sound design. Maybe I want to turn it into folk, whatever. You can do that with any idea. You can turn it into anything, I swear. Just get something down. But yeah, in the next section I'm going to talk about how I'd process these chords, some sound design stuff, and then after that we can go into mixing and maybe finishing the idea. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the first section, and I will see you in the next section.